to the computer if it will let me. So come on in, babe.
Hi.
You're going to be on camera carrying in your stuff. All right. So I'm not sure who all is on Facebook watching with us tonight, but Kathy and Vern are on the Zoom here. I'm going to mute you guys just for a little time being, and then I'll open it up for questions when I do so. I will unmute you guys. Just trying to not have any background noise. But what I want to do is I'm going to kind of kick this off with a couple new things. First and foremost, I want to welcome new members. We have 2 new members that we signed on last week. That is Erica Shaw, and she is our new online client. And then Jonathan Davis is a new hybrid client. So you guys will see him actually in the gym a little bit as I'll be working with his programming. And these are 2 new members, so they are starting officially week 1 this week, which is really cool to have them on us. Want to celebrate a couple successes. Kathy, we were just talking about your competition, so we'll start with you. I'm very proud of what you've done over the weekend with the America's Strongest Disabled Athlete, just being out there, crushing it, like setting new PRs that you shared with me already, and meeting some new friends and just being inspired by some of these other athletes that are out there. I think you said there was about 12 of you guys total out there in Ohio. So that is really cool just to see your transformation and just seeing you honestly just taking the bull by the horn and running with it. You had some challenges along the way, but you just crushed every single one of them. And I am super excited to see where you're going to take it from here on out with any further competitions and your training and the whole 9. So super, super pumped about that. I want to celebrate her a little bit. She's in first 2 weeks of training as an online client. She's dropped 8 pounds in her first 2 weeks. So I want to commend Yo for that. And then Denise actually has improved her pull-ups, where she was only able to do with the Gravitron is what this machine is called. It has stacked weights that helps you kind of do assisted pull-ups, where she was only able to do maybe 5. She's actually doubled that count. So that is her getting stronger. So we'll be able to start taking weight away from the Gravitron, giving her a little less help, and getting stronger until eventually she won't need that apparatus at all. So really super stoked about you guys working hard and getting results like these in a short matter of time. And so what I want to do is I want to actually go into a little bit of training protocol, and I want to talk about sticking to the basics. And the reason I want to talk about that is because we have some new members on board. And a lot of times what happens with people's programs is, they get so varied with their programming, if you will, that they lose sight of the basics. They lose sight of the foundational groundwork. They lose sight of, what it really takes to get from point A to point B. And here's the thing, it's the basics that will always work. Always, always, always. And I am myself always hammering the basics. And I've been, training for, close to 20 years now. And, I still work with body weight. I still work with the barbell. I still work with, odd objects as my forte. But here's the thing is that, the basics work every single time. And it's, when people make comments on social media and they're like, your push-ups look so good, your deadlifts look so good, and like your form looks so good with this and that. It's not because it's because I stick with the basics. It's because I do them often. I'm doing them weekly. Like there's not a single workout really that goes by where I'm not doing push-ups and pull-ups. And so what I want to go into is, why the basics are important. I'm going to basically give you the list of the basics. And then I'm going to give you ways of actually building upon the basics so that you can keep advancing and adding variety to your workouts a little bit. Because yes, the variety is the spice of life, but the problem with variety a lot of times is people program jump, and they jump around way too much. They don't have a solid baseline, if you will, with their strength. They don't have a solid baseline with the basics. And so they end up spinning their wheels. They end up getting nowhere, and they wonder why they're frustrated. They wonder why they're not getting stronger or why they can't make progress with their program. It's because there's no there's no tier level. There's no room for improvement. There's no progressive overload, because if you're always jumping from one program to the next, or jumping from, several, just trying to do different exercises every single workout, well, you can't build anything. You're just burning energy. That's all you're doing. You're expending energy, and you're not making any strides towards your ultimate goals, towards progress, towards building the foundation, towards building the strength. So let me just run through the list of what I consider the basics. There's 6 of them when it comes to the basics, and that is some type of press. So some type of pushing, whether it's doing a push-up or a bench press or an overhead press, but you are going to push weight. The other one is going to be a pull. So this will include doing pull-ups. This will be included doing the body weight rows, inverted rows. This will be included doing dumbbell rows and barbell rows, things of that nature. Cable rows if you're in a gym with a machine, lower pulley system, things of that nature. So we got your pushing, we got your pulling, and then we got your squat. That's basic human evolution right there, right? Like if we look at baby Vivian, she's got a perfect squat, and she actually watches herself do that in the mirror, right? But squat is one of the basic movements that we as humans do from very early development, and so we should continue developing that squat movement. The next one will be the hinge movement. Now, this is where the deadlift comes into play, but hinging at the hips, doing Romanian deadlifts. You could even argue with like the single leg movements, such as single leg kettlebell deadlifts and things of that nature. But hinging is a very vital part of sticking with the basics, a very basic human anatomy function that we should be mastering all the time. Next one would be the lunge. So a lot of lower body in here with the squat, hinge, and lunge all in one, or all kind of put together here. But lunge, this is flexation with the knee, the ankle, as well as the hip. It's a great single leg, and you can think of this as doing single leg lunges, step ups, walking lunges, things of that nature. Even side lunges are, even though you're moving the plane in a different direction, that is still one of the 6 basic movements. And then the last one, I'm going to say heavy carries, whether it's a yoke on your back or just picking up a sandbag and carrying your baby up and down the steps, right? These are all functional. Like everything I just named here is pretty functional. We do these movements in our day-to-day lives. So we want to build upon that. We want to build upon that strength. We want to build upon that baseline. And of course, there's always ways of taking that intensity up, whether you're carrying something a little bit heavier, or squatting something a little bit heavier, or doing it for more reps or whatnot. But you can do so much with just your body weight with these 6 movements, right? Or having something like a weight vest on you to add a little bit of intensity on here. So it's all about getting creative from there and building upon those. Now, even though those are my 6 basic movements, then I have my other movements, 4, which are a little more advanced, just depending on who you are. And these are what I would call my athletic movements. These will be your jumping. This will be your running, climbing, and crawling. So whether you're, jumping up onto a box, or doing a broad jump, or even doing jump rope, jumping is a high skill level for some people. So I get into the higher skills with, if you will, with these movements. But jumping, running, climbing, and crawling are all movement patterns that can take you to the next level, can break out boredom and whatnot. And you can build upon these things just as you can with the basic movements. And a great thing about running, jumping, climbing, crawling is this could be done anywhere. Get out on a playground and you could do all that stuff, right? And then one last movement, one last basic movement, but this is going to be one of the more technical ones. And this is one that I would say definitely have a coach to teach you through this, and that would be the cleans, barbell cleans, as well as snatches if you wanted to, but definitely cleans is one of those more technical lifts that I think most people should be able to master, because you're essentially taking something from the floor and you're picking it up to chest height level, and possibly putting it over your head if you want to encompass, the clean and press, if you will. So those are my basic movements, and as you can see, that is a pretty big list. It's 11 movements that you have there that you could just build upon and build upon and build upon. So let's talk about how we can build that up a little bit. So I've already mentioned this a little bit previously, but ways to up the intensity or ways to do progressive overload is adding weight, putting more weight on the bar, putting a weight vest on, putting a band around your back when you're doing your push-ups, putting a band around your back with your dumbbells if you're going to do presses, if you're stuck with just 25-pound dumbbells or whatnot. Like there's all kinds of ways to up the weight, up the resistance is what I should say, up the resistance on your exercises. Hell, if you got your partner next to you and you're at home doing push-ups, have them lay across your back. Have your child on your back like a backpack as you're doing push-ups and squats and whatnot. And that'll just add some resistance to those exercises. But I feel like it's so important to build that foundation, to build that baseline of strength and build upon those basic movements. And if you're not focusing on doing the body weight training, by the way, body weight training should be part of your daily activity. When I'm doing squats, I'm always supersetting it with something like pull-ups or push-ups. And so I kind of build full body workouts that way by always having kind of the opposite of what I'm doing. So if I'm working legs with, say, the squat, or if I'm working legs and upper back with, say, the deadlift, then I'm usually supersetting one of those with an upper body exercise. So deadlifts and push and the squats, I'm going to superset with either pull-ups or push-ups or even dips or chin-ups, any kind of variation of those. So that way I'm always getting body weight in there. If I'm doing overhead presses or I'm doing bench press, I'll superset that a lot of times with body weight rows, or I'll superset that with, again, pull-ups. So kind of balancing it out a little bit with the push-pull there, but I could honestly, like, we could do box jumps along with it. We could do step-ups along with it, do walking lunges along with those pressing movements, anything to get a little bit more full body out of it than just doing a bench press and then twiddling our thumbs between sets, right? So it's another way, by the way, if you add in these body weight exercises, if you add in the basic exercises along with your main lifts, it's a way to build in your rest time for your main lift without overtaxing yourself for the main lift, and you'll get more work done in that same amount of time. So instead of just playing on Facebook or playing on Instagram or whatnot, or just sitting on the bench and waste of space, let's get moving just a little bit more. You get a lot more done in the same amount of time. So that's actually another way of bringing up the intensity, is more work capacity in the same time frame. So say you only have half an hour and you're going to set up a squat rack or squats for today, just hit some squats and pull-ups. And so instead of just accomplishing one movement in that, say, 30-minute workout, you've at least got two movements and you've got a full body workout in right then and there. Okay. Maybe add some push-ups in there as well. Now you definitely have the full body, right? You got your lower body and you got to push and a pull. All right. So another way to up the intensity is decrease your rest time. You don't always have to add more weight to the bar. You don't always have to add more resistance to yourself, but just by decreasing your rest time, if you're used to resting for, say, 30 seconds or 45 seconds, let's cut it down. Instead of 45 seconds rest, cut it down to 30, cut it down to 20, cut it down to 15, cut it down to 10, and do like Tabata style. So that's where, like, the Corona Crusher workouts, they're all built Tabata style, where you're working for like 20 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds, and you have very short rest times. So that's another way of just upping the intensity, especially if you don't have any equipment to work with. And you just have your body weight alone. Like, you don't need a ton of rest time for it to recover, just enough to kind of catch your breath, just enough so the muscles are replenished a little bit with the glycogen and whatnot. ATP is kind of retapped, and well, that's kind of burned up immediately. But at any rate, you're able to get your energy reserves back a little bit with that shorter rest period, and get strength out of it because you're not taking these long rests. So those are all ways of upping the intensity and adding to progressive overload. So if you look at it and you kind of combine all three of these, hey, I'm adding more weight to the bar. Hey, I'm going to even decrease my rest time. And hey, I'm going to superset this bench press with pull-ups. And guess what? You're getting all kinds of work done versus the person that is, typing away on Instagram. And this is how you can build your work capacity up. This is how you can challenge yourself with the basics and break the boredom, so to speak, out of the basics, if you will. So, and it comes around, the single area of focus. I brought this up earlier, but instead of just jumping around and having just, these randomized workouts and just, the whole muscle confusion thing that P90X was famous for branding, which is a bunch of BS, by the way, guys. There's no such thing as muscle confusion. Your muscles know, they only know resistance. They don't even know the weight on the bar, right? They just know what the effort is for the day. So if you're putting in the effort and you're putting in, you're putting into work to break them down so that they become stronger, that's what produces results every single time. Muscle confusion with different exercises and jump through hoops and trying to be do cool little circus acts or whatnot, doing the Bosu balls, doing the balance boards, they serve a purpose with some other type of training. They might serve purpose with, if you are a competitive ice hockey player or something like that. But honestly, doing heavy squats builds a lot more balance than you'll ever get out of a balance board. And that's just been proven, because when you build strength, you build balance. Okay. So, so the third thing is, again, I touched on this earlier, but you have the foundation to continuously build upon, and then you'll get stronger with any other movements that you want to do. So stick with the basics, guys. They are so important. Do not discredit the basics just because you've done push-ups, the past several workouts that you've done does not mean that you should get away from them. Stick with the basics. Also, by the way, when it comes to the bodyweight training, I should have mentioned this earlier, but you're building up the joints, you're building up the tendons, you're building up the ligaments. A lot of times we tend to bang stuff, we bang the joints away with the heavy lifting, with the logs and the strongman equipment and the stones and, the barbells and things of that nature, that our joints and our ligaments, they don't have a chance to really recover. Or even get stronger. The muscles tend to outgrow them. But with body weight training, with the basics training, and even incorporating things like yoga into your programming, this helps strengthen all those things. And so you can actually build a better core. You can build a better foundation with your lower back. Like if you have any lower back issues, such as I do, right? Anything like that. I truly contribute a lot of my lower back pain going away, not because of, just not because I was working out, but because I was working out the right way, because I was doing the right exercises, because I was building my body weight strength, as well as I was doing, chiropractor and, listening to my doctor and things of that nature. But because I was doing the bird dogs, because I was doing the yoga, because I was doing the hyper extensions, that's more of like a reverse hip hinge movement pattern, but it's still a hip hinge pattern movement, is those reverse hypers. Okay. So like I said, when it comes to these body weight movements, they are tremendous for building strength, getting variety in there, hitting more progressive overload, filling in the rest time. You can see that I'm a firm believer in doing these. So add it, put it into your workouts. Don't neglect it, and don't disvalue the purpose of sticking with the basic movements. Okay, guys. So went off on a little bit of a rant there, but I guess there's just so much out there with these different lifts or whatnot, or these circus acts that people see, and people are like, oh, I want to do the muscle ups, which is cool. But here's the thing. If you can't do a dip and you can't do a pull up, you will never get to a muscle up. So hammer the dips, hammer the pull ups, lose some weight possibly if you want to do a muscle up. Like, that's going to be my first rule, is I got to lose more weight if I ever intend on doing a muscle up. So yeah, the movements are cool. They look pretty, but there's so many gymnastic movements, such as front levers, and I don't even know the names of most of this stuff, but the muscle ups, doing the dips, things of that nature, like dips off the Olympic rings and things of that nature, the iron crosses. Like, these are all phenomenal movements, and they will build tremendous strength. But sometimes you can't get there until you build the foundational strength that comes from push-ups and pull-ups and dips and rows. Okay. So I hope that helps you guys out a little bit with that. I want to see on Facebook, I'm going to check it real quick. If there's any questions on Facebook on the, oh shoot, that's not what I wanted to do. Now I'm listening to myself on Facebook. Sorry about that, guys. But is there any questions on the group? Let's see. Doesn't look like we had. If anybody has any questions inside the group, just put them up on the video now. Kathy, I will unmute you if you have any questions. Let me see. Can I unmute you myself? All right. So Kathy, do you have any questions for me tonight?
I'm thinking.
Or Vern, since I know he's there with you as well.
I'm thinking too.
Well, I know you guys just had a long trip back from Ohio. You're probably exhausted.
Actually, it's really cool that you went over this today, because this is, I want to start adding in things like box squats, but I'm going to start body weight first.
Yep.
If my hip will tolerate it. Because I have read some recent, I wouldn't say research, but people with experience that had needed hip replacements and started putting squats and some other hip movements into their training, and ended up not needing the hip replacements because they built up enough strength around the hip to support it.
Fantastic. So what I would encourage you, Kathy, is maybe start with a high box, just, and see how that feels. Work that for a couple of weeks, and then start working a little bit lower until you are at parallel, and then start adding weight. And I would say squat maybe once, or I would say once, like pick a day to squat, maybe do a 3 sets of 5 kind of routine, something like that, and then build it up from there. If you need help with like some type of programming, we could help you out with that. But I would just, start slow is what I'm trying to say. Is just start slow, see how the body recovers, see how it feels, and then start adding more as your body tolerates, if that makes sense. So very cool though. Yeah. That would be exciting though. That would be very exciting.
Definitely.
I love that. Thank you for that feedback. I love that. So Vern, how about you, your perspective from this weekend or anything else? Like, I know with your own training, we started out of the gate with you, like deadlifts and supersetting that with push-ups and things of that nature. So.
Yeah, I mean, this has been good too, because I have gotten sort of shifted a little, not being as structured as I should have been. That's always a problem of mine. I get distracted. I'm very distractible. So
fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, hearing this is a reminder. You don't need to, because I'll have a program and then I'll add stuff to it, and I tend to overdo, or and then take out some things that I should have left in, and just messing with stuff too much.
I gotcha. Yeah. So when it comes to the programming, like honestly, I've really scaled back even my own stuff. Like for me, it's like, all right, let me get pull-ups in, let me get some push-ups in, or let me get some type of pull. It doesn't always have to be pull-ups. Sometimes it could be the ring rows. But let me just do some type of body weight every single time I train. So like, even like today, it was like walking lunges. So it'll be squats or lunges or hyperextensions or pull-ups, push-ups, whatever. But let me always get some body weight training in with the other stuff that I'm doing. Let me get some heavy carries in once or twice a week. And then, with the barbell work, yeah, let's stick with, the barbells and get my, overheads, get my deadlifts, get my squats in. But let me make sure that I always get my body weight stuff in there. And so if I can put a little check mark off of that stuff, then I'm good. And I'm really trying to become more of a minimalist with my training as well. Just like, using more odd object stuff with the sandbags and stones again. But again, it's
Mhm.
like using my body weight, using dumbbells more, and then the odd objects. So even like the barbells, so to speak, unless it's deadlifts, I'm not even playing with the barbells much anymore. Um, like when I mean by that is I'm not using them every day. So if I have overheads, sometimes I get the barbell for overheads. If I'm doing squats, I'll use a safety squat bar, but it's like I don't use a normal barbell for overheads. I'll use the football bar, or I'm using dumbbells just because of the angle that it puts my shoulder joint in. It's just more healthy for my shoulders and my triceps and whatnot. And I firmly believe that's why my close grip bench press went way up, is because of doing that stuff. And it was really hammering my triceps. So while protecting my shoulders. And so now I'm very front delta and tricep dominant when it comes to my bench press, which is pretty awesome. So sometimes you just surprise yourself with that kind of thing.
Yeah, Will and Matt had been, and I've been doing it, pushing me to use the kegs for my front squats,
Yeah. Okay.
because it also is helping me with that lap motion and being farther back instead of leaning forward. Because if I try to do a front squat with a keg leaning forward, I'm going to fall over.
Yeah. Right. It's going to pull you right over. Ooh, I like that though. I like that. So yeah, whenever COVID hit, I never did a front squat with a keg, but I was using the sandbag, and the sandbag is tough as well. But you have to stay in a very upright position with that. So that's really, and plus, while you're holding that odd object, it's pretty much a goblet squat that you're doing. You're just using it with a keg, but you're working your upper back strength so much more as well while you're trying to hold that weight to the front of you. So
Yeah, and the hope is that it'll help me to get better with the kegs and the sandbags and the stones and things like that, where I'm struggling with that allowing my body to go to that position.
totally, it totally will. It totally will. So that is awesome stuff. I love it. I love it. Let me check Facebook again, but doesn't look like we have any questions on Facebook. So, do you guys have anything else?
I can't think of anything else right at the moment.
Okay.
Neither can I.
Well, if you think of something, post it inside the Facebook group so that way I can address. What I'm trying to do is I've got, when I do these, when I find questions on Facebook or whatever, I'm going to try to dig in deeper on some of this stuff. And so tonight's call was really digging deep on the basics because I can't remember what the question was or what the comment was, but I was like, we need to talk about the basics. Like people are starting to overlook them, so we need to talk about it. So when I see comments or questions inside the Facebook group that is kind of common or that really needs to be talked about more, that's what I'm going to be putting out on these coaching groups or these coaching calls for you guys. So I hope
Awesome.
it really helps out.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining tonight. I'm going to stop the recording real quick.